Good morning, folks. This is John Pettipas. I want to welcome you all back, all you wonderful folks. And it's now 25 minutes past 11 o'clock in the morning of Tuesday, the 10th day of November. It's the eve of Remembrance Day. And I was on the phone this morning leaving some message, and she phoned me back. I said it's the most sacred day of the year, next to Jesus' birthday at Christmas and Easter, when you have the death and resurrection of Jesus. But Remembrance Day, without Remembrance Day, we wouldn't have the right to celebrate religion, to practice religion. We wouldn't have many of the rights which we take for granted, all too often take for granted, we enjoy. In fact, I have a wonderful quote from a friend the other morning. I care not the voters. I just care about who counts the votes. I'm going to hold it up. I care not the voters. I just care about who counts the votes. And that was Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin. Russia. He's responsible for tens of millions of deaths. He's felt just the number of people in Ukraine that died during the famine imposed upon the people of Ukraine when they're forced to become part of the Soviet Union. In fact, his own wife, had his own wife murdered, and she complained about the brutality, the horrific things he was doing to the Ukrainian people. Russians are still trying to do stuff to Ukrainian people. President Trump has stood up. I'm going to inject politics. You can't take Remembrance Day and politics apart. President Trump stood up to Vladimir Putin on Ukraine. What did Vice President Joe Biden and Barack Hussein Obama do when Vladimir Putin annexed part of the Crimea? Nothing. Zero. Nothing. 48 years. Just celebrated 8 years of doing nothing. Now, all soldiers, all the brave men and women that have fought, they didn't fight so that we could have elections stolen. Repeat. They didn't fight so that we can have elections stolen. Some political leaders have backbone, and some don't. This is from the Halifax Herald. This is a beautiful poppy. And I had a note to myself displayed up behind me as I made this video. But I have the Canadian and U.S. flag, and I have a beautiful wreath. And I can't do these videos with the help of so many people. I have the Cape Breton flag. I love Cape Bretonners. I love Cape Bretonners. They have a special place in my heart. Always have and always will. Cape Bretonners. More on Cape Bretonners a little bit later in my video. Okay, so I always have a Cape Breton flag up behind me. Always. We have a gentleman here in Ontario, and I noticed something come up, and I shared it. It was about Premier Doug Ford, great guy, true conservative, and a very decent guy, very decent human being. And he took, real fine fella, he passed a law last week, here it is, an upscale food grocery chain that is refusing to allow their employees to wear poppies in their store should apologize and reverse the decision. Premier Doug Ford said, "It's disgusting and disgraceful that Whole Foods has banned poppies for their employees." Ford tweeted on Friday, "We always stand by our veterans." And he's enacting a law right now that you cannot stop people, employees of stores and service organizations, from displaying a poppy. Doug Ford has a backbone. Least we forget why we have poppies. Least we forget Whole Foods. Very uppity. They used to say that Whole Foods. Why did they call it Whole Foods? And the friend replied back, he said, because they take a whole paycheck. Their prices are so high there. I thought that was kind of good. Now, this is something I want to mention. This here came in the mail. This is Canada Post, and they have a beautiful, it's item number 8, and as I used in my video, item number 8, this is from October 2020, item number 8, and it's very patriotic coins, true through the Royal Canadian Mint. This is item number 8 in your Canada Post. Give them a little plug. They charge enough off them at the local post stations. Well, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. Now, I want to mention there's a lady on the YouTube. She has an exceptionally beautiful Remembrance Day. It's actually not YouTube. It's on Facebook, and I shared it. And I don't think I've ever got so many compliments so quick as she did. An exception. It's a lady in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and I seen a picture of it in the Halifax Herald. I think it was in Saturday's issue. But you look at it's a Nova Scotia Pictures. No, I think it's called Nova Scotia Kitchen Party or Nova Scotia Pictures. It's on this Facebook, and she has it. She posted it now. Please view it. I put a note. Mention. This is a note now from Monday. It would have been the 5th day of. Actually, not Monday. It's November 5th. So we go back to 5th day. That would have been actually Wednesday. But it's an exceptionally beautiful display. And man, oh man, did that lady put a lot of work in her display. It's massive. And it's outside a senior citizen residence. And she must have planned all summer since the spring coordinator. It's a sight to be seen. It says they're not having in-person Remembrance Day ceremonies tomorrow, which is too bad because I was out in the garden cutting the remainder of the Swiss chard. And it's warm. And a t-shirt on, you can feel the warmth from the sun. 20 degrees almost out here in Tracadie, County, Nova Scotia. It was about 20 minutes ago, just after 11 o'clock this morning. Actually, we worked on it before. I was doing 2 sides of a wide row. And they take, anyway, sometimes we're uncomfortable, a little bit cold. I remember the late Bob Reid came in my story. He was a fantastic customer, was a wonderful man. And we had a crisis in Ontario, an uprising back in early 90s, and was causing some American visitors and people from Western Canada was affecting tourism in Nova Scotia, it seemed to be. And I was making a bit of complaining. Bob Reid looked at me and says, "John, you have no right to complain." And he had a few burn marks. He was getting chemotherapy or radiation treatment. And actually later that fall, I would have attended his funeral. It was so big. It was a Presbyterian faith. The Catholic Church and priest of Mulgrave, Father McAdam, lent the church to Bob Reid, his family, for the funeral. I'm very proud to do so. The baptismal font was made by Bob Reid at Machine Shop for no charge. And Mulgrave Machine Works and so on, his business. And fantastic guy. So he died. He said, "John, you have no right to complain." None of us have right to complain. We see pictures. We look at them. They all come out at Remembrance Day. Men in the trenches, World War I. We look at the Newfoundland Regiment. Next to the Civil War, there was probably more casualties in any war in modern times. Would have been more casualties in World War I. Because you still had men and horses. You had machine guns have been invented. They started to have planes that could drop bombs on you. They used chemical warfare, mustard gas. And so there was a combination of the old way, the 18th century way of fighting stuff, and the 19th century. And the gallantry of these Newfoundland men that went and had terrific casualty, but they went. They did their duty. And we can never, we salute them. We pray for them. We know each and every one of those brave men are in heaven now. The gallantry of them. You think of that, I was going to mention Cape Breton, the famous, they say, the Cape Breton Highlanders. The spirit of the Cape Bretoners. The Cape Breton Highlanders. Fantastic. I read an obituary in paper yesterday, provincial paper, of a man that was a member of the Nova Scotian Regiment, Nova Scotia Highland Regiment. So there's the Cape Breton Highlanders, and there's the Nova Scotia Regiment. Of course, there's Canadians all across the country fought in World War II. And this is, I wish you a most memorable Remembrance Day in Canada and a Veterans Day in America. All my American cousins and your fellow comrades. All the United States is known for never leaving anybody behind. I mentioned last year going to Aunt Hattie's 98th birthday back in late May of 2009, and every little, you crossed the border at St. Stephen, Calais, Maine, every little town had, at their war monuments, they had beautiful wreaths out, and every cemetery had Old Glory on the veterans' graves. Oh, we famous for never forgetting their own. Now, I'm going to do a little bit different approach here. I'm going to mention my late cousin Edith Young, and she was a wonderful lady in her own right, and her late husband Fred. Fred fibbed. Fred fibbed on his age, and he got enlisted in the army. I think you had to be 16 years old. He was actually not 16 yet. And he got captured. He was prisoner of war. We have no right to complain. A little bit cold or chilly, or it was too hot in the summer. It was humid. We don't have the luxury of air conditioning. He never talked about it much, but he spent the rest of his 16th year, 17 year, 18 year, the war ended. And it grew up basically in a prisoner of war camp. And the conditions were pretty horrific. Get something to eat, anything to eat. Think back at Ken Burns' The Civil War. There was boll weevils. They had something called hardtack. And they take and you put it in your water and put your coffee on it, and the weasels would come to the top of this stuff, and they'd say, well, you get some protein. People actually eat bugs now, but it's not you or I, if we're starving, want to really eat bugs. So the conditions, I think of a guy, he was, Wolford was his name. He jumped in, I don't know where he's at now. See him go one morning, it was a wet morning. His work came in the store, and I gave him some ripe bananas and some Little Debbie's pastry cakes. And he said, thank you. But I was glad to meet us. Anyway, I gave him, his feet were wet, and I gave him a pair of dry socks and a pair of work boots. A couple of people gave me work boots, so I can only wear one pair of work boots at once. And so I gave him a pair of work boots, and he left the other boots behind. You think, well, why would you leave them behind? But then if you're hitchhiking up the road from Auld, Cove, going to Monastery, Annickinish, Glasgow, wherever you're going to end up that night, to carry that other pair of work boots with you isn't very practical. And I've mentioned Millard Kenny a number of times, and he never complained. This is the gentleman I mentioned a few weeks ago. He liberated, a few videos back, not even a few weeks ago. He liberated concentration camps. And he trust but verify. He never forgot what he saw, but he wasn't bitter. He wasn't bitter. So just like Freddie Young never discussed his war experiences, Millard Kenny never discussed them much. But that said, he never forgot what he seen. And he was not a hard man to please. He knew what he wanted, but he wasn't a hard man to please. I think when people go through horrific circumstances, a little bit of warmth, or dry clothing, or food, there's no complaints in the food. There's no complaints in the food. Well, look at modern warfare. I'm going to bounce about here. Modern warfare nowadays. In Iraq and Afghanistan, men that would have died years ago get saved. They have tremendous paramedics and tremendous field hospitals. And the poor guys are in these tanks, and remember, somebody I worked with, had the pleasure of working with for 9.5 years. 3 of his older brothers were veterans of the war in Afghanistan. And one of the brothers, Scott, said to me one day, my God, John, he didn't mean it in a good sense. They put these landmines, and you got guys, and just like a little baby, you got to be careful spotting your head when they're first born infant. Nobody wants to drop a baby or a child. But that said, remember one day, I bounce about when I express myself. God bless us. They take in here. One second here, please. Bear with me. There we are. Perfect. Thank God. They're taken. Scott said to me, they plant these landmines, and the poor guys in the tanks get bounced. Remember one day, actually, my wonderful cameraman Sam, his wife came, lovely wife, and she's a wonderful mother. She came in with their first child. It was Margie came from a family of 14, and her and her husband have 5 or 6 kids, and she picked up the baby, her little grandchild, and put him on a scale to weigh him, the Hobart scale. Michael was only small. And she's going to drop the baby. Margie said, no, I'm not going to drop the baby. And she put the baby in the scale to see how much Michael weighed. Well, nowadays you tell Michael wouldn't fit in the scale. Get off the scale, Michael, you're going to hurt the scale. Actually, he's in the military. He's a pilot, and one brother flies the helicopters, one brother keeps them in flying operation, a fantastic mechanic. So they take in two of those three brothers are serving their country very well. So they take it. Anyway, back to make my point. In these armoured vehicles, if the landmine blows up and the poor guys, you hit your head even with a helmet on, it causes all kinds of difficulties, to put it mildly, if you even survive. And so the nature of warfare has changed. I'm going on quite long here. I'm going to wrap this up. But I want to pray for our veterans, pray for our injured veterans, pray for our deceased veterans. There's getting to the point where there's not nearly as many World War II veterans as there were before. And they're going on to heaven now. And they experienced went through a lot of stuff. So we all, as Bob Reed told me at the Dana store, John, you have no right to complain. We have no right to complain. Think of a veteran in World War I, in the trenches, cold and wet, shells coming at you, enemy sniper, sleeping in terrific, trying to sleep in extreme, sometimes going long time without even any sleep, without any food, just a bit of water, basic necessity life water. Veterans of World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. We can never forget these people. It's not just a cliche. That's why we have this Remembrance Day poppy. We say least we forget. Least we forget. And we can never, never ban the wearing of poppies. When a poppy gets put in the altar of political correctness, that's wrong. Wrong. I'm going to raise my voice. So I salute all you veterans, all the men and women that have served, all the support people, all the people on the home front. We thank you. Again, I salute you. I wish you all a memorable Remembrance Day. I know it went on a bit longer than normal. Please share this video on the social media. Replay it, tweet it, share it, whatever. And more importantly, do an act of kindness to a veteran. You see them in the mall. You see them in a coffee shop. Pay for their coffee. Buy them a donut or something, go with it. Go and talk to them. More so talking. Sometimes they giving them a little bit of time. Time. They say time is money. Well, that's true. But also, time is worth more than money often. Some of these fellas aren't going to be around for much longer, and be kind to them. Visit nursing homes. Don't forget them. Visit them at their homes. When they want to tell you a story, listen to them. Give them respect in the time of day. So this is John Pettipas wishing you all the best. God bless. And God bless each and every one of our veterans. U.S., Canada, the island of Cape Breton, the island of Newfoundland, our beloved province of Nova Scotia. God bless each and every one of you veterans, and thank you. We can never say thank you enough. Until next time, this is John Pettipas. All the best and memorable Remembrance Day and Veterans Day to everybody tomorrow. Thank you. Bye for now.